Quick note, not that you guys care, because I don't think you can ever tell, right? Like, you guys couldn't tell if I did it from my house, if I was in Wisconsin. Well, I'm actually back in L.A. There's a cancer fundraiser I MC every year in Beverly Hills. Can't wait to do that tomorrow. We'll talk about that probably a little bit tomorrow in tomorrow's show. But in the meantime, good to see you guys. Good to see Jason Stewart and Chris Perfett and my man Isaac Lowenkron as well. Do you know what the greatest compliment you can give to somebody in radio is? Okay, so I've been doing this for 22 years overall, 21 years on the national level, and hosted my own show for 15 years or so, 17 years. And the greatest compliment you can give to somebody is, I listened through a break, right? Like, we all know that back, Greeny still has a show, right? Back when he was Mike and Mike, and Mike and Mike was the biggest show in sports radio. I just be honest with you, I listen to our guys. I don't know if his show, what it is now, but Mike Greenberg was known as the best teaser in sports radio, maybe in radio history. He was great. And what a tease does is coming up next, right? And the idea is to get you to listen through a break. Let's make no bones about it. We make money because we have sponsors, and the sponsors want you to listen through a break. We don't want you to hear an ad and then switch channels, right? So you tease ahead. A tease is like you think, make you whet your appetite. That's WHET. Whet your appetite for something we're going to talk about next. For example, I'll whet your appetite. Matt Holliday, 7-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger, is going to join us in the second hour of the show. His son, Jackson, number one prospect in minor league baseball, of course, now in the big leagues. His second stint in the bigs, going much better for I think they're second place in the AL East, Baltimore Orioles. We'll talk to Matt Holliday at, was it 125 on the West, 425 on the East. That's a tease. So Greenberg was the best, but the idea of it is getting you to listen through a break. The greatest compliment you can get, I think there's actually two. One is, I got to where I was going and I couldn't get out of the car until that was done. That's like the great, right? Like you're driving through a rainstorm, you get home to see the wife and the kids, you haven't seen them in 2 weeks, and you're like, Gottlieb's on a roll here. Or yesterday's Ian O'Connor interview, which you can download and listen to in the podcast form. Just type in Doug Gottlieb or type in podcast. You listened to that interview and you could not get out of the car till it was done. That's compliment number one. Compliment number two was, it was so good, I wanted to hear what you said next coming out of the break. Right? We would all agree, like, we're all radio guys, kind of lifers in this business. I'm talking to you, Ilo. I'm talking to you, Jay Stu. I'm talking to you, Profet, right? Those are incredible compliments. Okay. The WNBA is back, I think, this weekend. And is the WNBA a fad, or is it here to stay? You will know in the next couple weeks. I guess it starts tonight. I didn't know. But I was watching and I saw a couple things. Of course, ESPN covers the whole, they have the WNBA on their coverage, right? But look, the Olympics didn't have Caitlin Clark. Nobody really paid attention to the women, although they almost lost in the championship game. You got Little League World Series, which the same genre of people, right? Women, kids, younger families watch Little League World Series. A lot of them have been watching WNBA. But that's what women's sports has been on a meteoric rise, led by the WNBA. Will we listen through a break? Will we watch through a break? I think it's fascinating. It's fascinating. Especially because, let's just be honest, our attention is diverted with football. Right? Most of you, myself included, right? My son started high school today. My daughters, I dropped one of my daughters off at college yesterday. We all have other stuff going on right now. And tonight, there's the Philadelphia Eagles taking on New England Patriots on the NFL Network. And as much as you could say, who watches preseason football on the NFL Network? The answer is a lot more people than watch the WNBA. Always, period, stop. 6 days a week, and of course, twice on Sunday. I think it's really interesting to me. Like, I'm fascinated by things that I don't know how they will go. right? Like in college football, I don't know how Oklahoma does in the SEC. I'm fascinated by it. They were better last year, but they have a demonstrative advantage, not just in historical and recent success in the Big 12, but financially, they're like at 1.5 to 2x of everybody else in the Big 12, with the exception of Texas. Now they're in the SEC and they're middle of the pack and everything. And they're kind of an unknown. And every week becomes a war. And they have a new quarterback, as Dylan Gabriel's at Oregon. You don't know what that's going to be like. We don't know what USC is going to be like. USC's super interesting. Lincoln Riley was on a meteoric rise when he took over at Oklahoma, and then he leaves Oklahoma, and the first year at USC, they turned the thing around. Last year was a bit of a mess. We talked about Clemson yesterday. I don't know what happens with Clemson. I personally think it works. I just don't know if it's this year, but building from within, having a high recidivist rate, that's how many people you bring back, I think is the way to win in college sports, not play the portal. Look at Colorado and what happened to them. And Colorado's interesting. I don't know the answers. I wonder, I think, but I'm interested by it. We talked about Philadelphia tonight, right? Last year they lost Shane Steichen, and the offense completely collapsed. Yes, they were 10-0, but it didn't look and feel the same. And then it was a mess at the end of the year, and that mess was made more obvious by some of the drama we've heard about this offseason. Like, I don't know what Philadelphia looks like this year. I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see what our Chargers look like. Obviously, you're hoping that you get your quarterback back, but also with a legitimate head coach with legitimate head coaching experience. And everywhere Jim Harbaugh has been, he's won. It stands to reason he'll win with the Chargers, but again, it's the Chargers. They find a way to spit up all over themselves all the time. How do I know? I'm a Charger fan. And I don't know about Jordan Love, right? First half of the season, Second half of the season, really good. Now he's the highest paid guy in the game. Now that people have a full book on him, what's that look like? Again, these are things that I don't know. I'm a curious person and a curious sports fan. Feels like the Dodgers, who, by the way, are in a 3-3 tie with the Milwaukee Brewers in a daytime game at American Family Field. Feels like the Dodgers are better for the postseason, but I'm going to watch in October, just like Jay Stu, because Jay Stu, he's Mr. Negative. He thinks they're going to lose yet again in the postseason. I think this is the year. But again, I don't know. But tonight begins probably a 2-week stretch of not real NFL games, but NFL is on. Not playoff games for Major League Baseball, but they do matter more. Our attention span is, especially for people who watch the WNBA, women, children, younger people, right? They're now into high school sports, high school football. Will we watch the WNBA? Because there's no part of me that could have predicted 2 years ago I would ever talk about a WNBA player or who was on or who was off the U.S. women's national team. Ask yourself that. Had you ever cared? I said this before the Olympics, and I know it to be true. They've won, 9 consecutive gold medals? Did anybody know that before they didn't have Caitlin Clark on the team? Like, well, we won 8 in a row. I don't know. I never paid attention to it. Couldn't tell you one thing about it. Because nobody cared. Now we care-ish, or do we care? Because if we care, you know what we do? We listen through a break. We watch through a break. The ultimate sign that a fad is going to stick is when it gets challenged, when there's alternatives. Does it continue to be part of the sports discussion? My guess, by the way, is that it does not. No matter how much we love Caitlin Clark, kind of had enough. Because at the end of the day, even the NBA can't battle with football, let alone women's basketball. But I don't know, because I couldn't have predicted this sort of prominence for one player rising up a league that was really the butt of most jokes for most of us sports fans for the last 25 years.